Hey, it's Safer, and you're watching Fourier Hobbyist episode 2. And this is going to be a fun episode with very little talking. We are going to do demolition on our target vehicle, which, as you know, we're going to be turning into an autonomous robot, a multi-mode robot. So, no talking, let's get started. Thanks for watching. This particular vehicle came with a battery that was absolutely dead, no good whatsoever. So I've already thrown it away, and we're going to bypass that switch and install our own batteries. These 4 screws look like they're going to take the entire upper body off, that we'll just be able to lift off the entire red portion of superstructure and just be left with the chassis on its own. And so let's give that a try. It may save us a ton of work because we're not here to disassemble things, and we want to minimize how long that takes. There we go. The whole upper body. Now, there may be parts of this we may want to use, but right now, we're happy that we got this apart. Let's take a quick look at the wiring here. So this is the front, and this is the back. In the back, we just have a drive motor. And in the front, we have a drive motor and a steering mechanism. Yeah, so there's some screws in the battery compartment that we're not going to use anymore that appear to be holding the lid. All right, there we go. This is the battery, no, not the battery lid. That is the internal component lid. And here is our existing control panel. This is both a controller and a motor driver and a servo driver. And here's the antenna. It's a receiver, motor driver, and servo driver all in one piece here. So before I destroy that, I noticed that this one is in English, and I can look it up and read about it, and we may be able to make some use of it. Now, whenever you're taking off, this isn't really a power supply, but whenever you're taking off or disassembling electronics that have capacitors in them. These guys here are capacitors. They're very small. I doubt anything here would hurt you, but it's a good idea to short these capacitors or be very careful what you're touching. So after some little bit of investigation, I'm reminded that one of our biggest obstacles in this project is going to be replacing the steering motor, because these inexpensive 4x4 remote control vehicles, they use a dumb DC motor to steer. And you'll notice that if I force it over, it kind of wants to return to center. There is some mechanism there that pulls it back to center. And in order to steer, the motor driver just sends a positive or a negative charge to the motor until it hits a stop. Now, we're not going to do that. We're going to use a servo because that's the right way to do things. We're going to use a servo that operates off of pulse width modulation, and that has nothing to do with this motor. So we need to remove this steering motor. We'll leave the drive motors intact, but we need to remove the steering motor, and we need to maybe save this steering arm and all this mechanism and try and replace it with a servo. So actually, what's happened just now is that this motor has come out in an enclosed unit. And I know that it's not the kind of motor we can use for our project, but just for kicks, let's open it up so I can show you what kind of motor it is and why we can't use it. All right, there we go. So the good news, so exactly as I suspected, this is just a plain, I guess it's a, I don't know, maybe a 12 or 9 volt DC motor. I don't see any markings on it. Anyway, you may encounter this. The good news is we can leave this intact and you can use this wiring, this motor with wiring harness for some other fun project that you create, okay? So we'll set that aside. I'll put that in my daughter's Go kit. Or alternatively, if you encounter this type of enclosure, you can save intact without disassembling it. You can save these pieces intact and use them as a high torque motor. I took it apart because I don't have much use for it and I wanted you to see what's inside it. So now, here's what we're stuck with. I say stuck. I've done this before. This may be challenging for you. I will try and put 3D models online if I can, but I can have no way of guaranteeing that the toy that you purchase will have the exact same structure as this. So I can only do so much to help you get through this, but this is a great opportunity to teach kids how this type of steering works. I think in the model community, they call this, I don't know, rack and pinion steering. It's not actual rack and pinion, but it is similar to rack and pinion steering. We're gonna save this armature and this rod because they're pretty good. And what we're gonna do is make a mount to fit a servo right here that's gonna turn this arm within this construct here. I'm glad we got that cleared up. We're done with demolition for today. And we no longer need to test anything here. We're ready to rip this out. If you would like to keep this intact for experimenting, if you have your remote that came with your target vehicle, and by target vehicle I mean the vehicle that we're working on, then you may be able to use this controller. You could use this for some other project. So in the spirit of making things, I guess let's save this piece, but let's take it out. All right, so there's a screw right here. If you want to save yours, you can go ahead and just take this board out. Again, be careful with boards that have capacitors on them. I'm fairly confident there's no danger here. But now, by removing that one screw, I have a motor driver. I accidentally broke the switch, but that you can easily replace. What I have here is a receiver from a 2.4 gigahertz remote that is a motor driver for 3 motors. M1, M2 was the steering, and M3 was the rear motors. So these are the front drive motor, the back drive motor, and the steering motor. So there it is. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time where I guess we'll start working on the mounting the servo there and how servos work. All right? Have a great week.